Coronation Street's Brody Michaelis could find himself in the frame for murder next week, as a new piece of evidence links him to some dodgy activity on the night of Theo Silverton's death. Is the troubled teen hiding a dark secret, or is there another explanation? DS Connor Swain swoops in to arrest Brody after forensic tests reveal that his fingerprints are all over Todd Grimshaw's phone, which went missing on the night of Theo's demise. Sally and Tim Metcalf can't believe their eyes as the police drag Brody off for questioning. It certainly doesn't look good for him. The week begins with Todd heading to prison to see Summer Spellman, who's the current prime suspect. In total despair over her predicament, Summer leaves him floored as she announces plans to plead guilty to manslaughter. Summer is just thinking ahead to the court case and her best chance of a lenient sentence, explains our Corey source. Theo has already ruined several lives on the street, so she just wants her ordeal to be over as soon as possible. Lisa reassures Todd that she's interviewed Theo's ex, Danielle, so there are still other suspects in the mix. But for now, Summer is staying put. Shortly afterwards, Todd asks Lisa whether he can have his phone back from the police. He hasn't seen his mobile since Theo took it from him on the night of the murder, which prevented him from leaving for Thailand to see his family. Lisa's response leaves Todd gobsmacked, as it emerges that the police aren't the ones who've been holding onto the phone for all this time. Fortunately, it's eventually found at a pawn shop, adding another layer of intrigue to the murder mystery. The police send the phone straight off to the forensics department, as it could be an important clue, teases our spy. Once the results come back, Lisa takes decisive action by arresting Brody on suspicion of theft. His fingerprints were found all over the phone. This may be the extent of his wrongdoing. Perhaps he just fancied using Todd's data allowance, but it could also link him to the murder itself. DC Kit Green watches the shocking events unfold with concern. It certainly wouldn't say much for his detective skills if the secret culprit were his own son. How will Brody explain himself? Coronation Street confirms bombshell Brody arrest in explosive Theo storyline. Weatherfield is once again at the heart of chaos as Coronation Street drops one of its most shocking twists yet, the sudden arrest of Brody in connection with the escalating Theo storyline. What began as a tense, emotionally charged family drama has now spiraled into a full-scale police investigation that threatens to unravel multiple lives on the cobbles. The situation has been building quietly for weeks. Theo's story, already layered with secrets, strained loyalties, and unresolved trauma, has slowly pulled several residents into its orbit. But no one expected the pressure point to snap so violently, or for Brody to be dragged into the center of it all in handcuffs. A storyline that started with silence. Theo's arc has always carried an undercurrent of unease. On the surface, he appeared to be trying to rebuild his life in Weatherfield, keeping his head down and avoiding attention. But viewers quickly sensed that something darker was simmering beneath his controlled exterior. Small inconsistencies in his behavior, unexplained absences, and increasingly tense interactions with those closest to him hinted that trouble was never far away. Brody's involvement, at first, seemed incidental. He was introduced as a loosely connected figure, someone hovering on the edges of Theo's world, occasionally offering help, sometimes creating friction. But as the storyline progressed, the bond between the two men became more complicated, blurring the line between friendship, dependency, and suspicion. What viewers did not anticipate was how quickly Brody would transition from background presence to central suspect. The night everything changed. The turning point comes with an off-screen incident that quickly spirals into a police matter. Details remain deliberately vague within the storyline, a classic Coronation Street technique that fuels speculation while withholding key truths. What is clear, however, is that something serious occurred, serious enough to prompt an immediate police response and Brody's dramatic arrest. Witnesses on the cobbles describe the moment as chaotic and unsettling. Uniformed officers arrive without warning, cutting through the usual hum of Weatherfield life. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Doors open cautiously. And then, in a moment that has already become one of the most talked-about scenes of the storyline, Brody is taken away as neighbors look on in shock. For Theo, the moment is equally devastating. His reaction suggests a mixture of fear, confusion, and something deeper, possibly guilt or recognition of consequences long avoided. Suspicion, secrets, and shifting loyalties. The arrest immediately fractures relationships across the street. Those closest to Brody are forced to reassess everything they thought they knew about him. Was he protecting Theo? Was he involved in something more serious than anyone realized? Or has he been wrongly accused, caught in the fallout of someone else's actions? Theo himself becomes the emotional center of the storm. His responses are guarded, but telling. Rather than offering clarity, he appears increasingly trapped by the situation, as though the arrest has pushed him closer to a truth he has been trying to outrun. Meanwhile, other residents begin connecting fragments of past behavior. Old arguments, unexplained tensions, and half-heard conversations are reinterpreted through a new lens. In true Coronation Street fashion, nothing is simple. Every answer seems to create two more questions. Police pressure intensifies. As the investigation unfolds, the police presence in Weatherfield grows more prominent. Brody is questioned extensively, with detectives probing his relationship with Theo and attempting to establish a timeline of events leading up to the incident. However, early indications suggest the case is far from straightforward. Evidence appears inconsistent, and witness accounts do not align neatly. This ambiguity fuels speculation that Brody may be a scapegoat, or alternatively, that he knows far more than he is willing to admit. The pressure builds not only on Brody but also on Theo, who finds himself increasingly drawn into the investigation whether he wants to be or not. Every interaction feels scrutinized. Every statement carries weight. And every silence becomes suspicious. A community on edge. One of the most powerful elements of this storyline is its ripple effect across the wider community. Coronation Street has always excelled at showing how one event can destabilize an entire neighborhood, and Brody's arrest is no exception. In the cafe, conversations become hushed and speculative. At the Rovers, opinions divide sharply. Some residents believe Brody is guilty and finally facing consequences, while others insist he has been set up. Trust becomes fragile, and alliances begin to shift. Even those not directly involved in the Theo storyline feel the tension. In Weatherfield, no drama exists in isolation. Every secret has a way of resurfacing, and every arrest leaves echoes behind. Theo's breaking point. As the storyline progresses, Theo's emotional state becomes increasingly unstable. The arrest acts as a catalyst, forcing him to confront issues he has long avoided. Whether it is guilt, fear, or unresolved trauma, something inside him begins to fracture. His interactions with others grow strained. Moments of silence stretch longer than they should. And when he does speak about Brody, his words are carefully chosen, almost rehearsed, as though he is constantly calculating the risk of saying too much. Viewers are left questioning whether Theo is a victim caught in the crossfire, or whether he is far more entangled in events than he appears. The bigger mystery. At the heart of this storyline lies a larger question. What really happened? Coronation Street has a long tradition of slowly peeling back layers of truth, and this arc appears to be following that same structure. Brody's arrest is not the resolution. It is the ignition point. Each episode adds new fragments, subtle contradictions, and emotional clues that suggest the truth is still out of reach. As suspicion deepens and pressure mounts, the possibility emerges that multiple characters may be hiding pieces of the puzzle. The line between innocence and guilt becomes increasingly blurred, leaving viewers to piece together the story alongside the characters themselves. What comes next? With Brody in custody and Theo under increasing scrutiny, Weatherfield stands on the edge of a much larger revelation. The fallout from this arrest is expected to ripple far beyond the immediate storyline, potentially reshaping relationships and exposing long-buried secrets. If Coronation Street has made one thing clear, it is that nothing in this saga is accidental. Every moment has been leading towards something bigger, and Brody's arrest may only be the beginning of a far more explosive truth waiting to emerge. For now, the cobbles remain tense, uncertain, and brimming with unanswered questions. And in true soap fashion, the calm that follows this storm may prove to be even more dangerous than the storm itself. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Coronation Street Scoop News Update.